Hello, good afternoon. Welcome, Frank Suttie.
Hi, Sian.
Hi, very nice to see you. So Frank is a director and commercial law practitioner at UK law firm Freeths. He's also author of our just published special report, The Data Protection and the New UK GDPR Landscape. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How does it feel to have it finally out?
Relieved, and I hope it's a useful contribution to people's understanding of the subject.
I'm sure it will be. Well, on that note, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about why you chose to write this report.
Yeah, sure. Data protection, particularly after GDPR, has become a big subject that lots of people think about, talk about, and want to exercise their rights when they find themselves in situations where they feel their personal data is not being used correctly or being protected. We've got a big data society now where it's incredibly easy to hold masses of data. It's cheap to hold masses of data, and a lot of businesses would like to do that. But then, of course, you have society's interests in mind as well. And one of the things about the way we live now is we're a rule-based society where we feel that trust is secondary to having rules to govern how things work. And therefore, GDPR is a very, very detailed, rule-based way of protecting personal data. I wanted to spare some of the pain, if you like, of going through the detail of it. There are some things covered in the publication where you can see what the rules are, but you're maybe not sure why the rules exist in the form they do, what they're trying to do. And I've tried to explain some of that through the publication.
Yeah, I think, and the case studies and your examples, I think, are particularly helpful there, aren't they? So people might be able to recognise their own situations through reading your own case studies.
Yeah, the one that caused most head scratching on my part was the Internet Service Protocol numbers, which is just an array of numbers. And how on earth could that be considered to be personal data? But it is, and the reasons for that are explained.
Yeah, well, you've touched on it now, I guess, but how do you think readers will find it most useful?
I think because it's not written so much as a textbook, as a guide to the subject, and it spares the reader a lot of technical detail, whilst at the same time getting over the outcomes that I think readers want to see from something like this. It's been written with a number of practical subjects covered in individual chapters, such as artificial intelligence, which is becoming a big issue within data protection at the present time. There is a chapter on closed-circuit television and the use of pictures, a video of people, which is becoming very controversial in use by the police, for example. So these are the kind of practical ways that have addressed the subject.
You also touch on some of the nitty-gritty too, don't you? Like, as you just mentioned, like what is personal data that can be confusing for organisations?
Yes, and how particularly sensitive types of data is treated.
Certainly. And a bit of a broad question, but are there any general trends you see or foresee in the future direction for data protection in the UK?
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting scenario developing at the present time, and it really relates to the role of the Information Commissioner's Office, which is not just as a protector of the interests of the individual in terms of personal data and enforcing the rules, but also providing guidance and really trying to give people a sense of direction as to how data protection laws should go in this country, both in terms of the way they work and the way they're enforced. And there's a bit of a dilemma for the Information Commissioner's Office around big data. Artificial intelligence is incredibly successful in many fields. Within the health service, it's now recognised as being a very reliable basis of detecting cancers, for example. And this requires, therefore, an awful lot of data to be stored and used in particular ways. That can be done with the data being anonymised, but sometimes there still has to be a connection back to the individual that the data came from. And so that's one of the big dilemmas, is how we resolve this tension between the need to have lots of personal data, which can do good, it can be a force for good, and the protection of the individual whose data becomes part of this. And the other area which the Information Commissioner's Office is looking at just now, that I think a lot more will be said about in time to come, is behavioural advertising, where on your journey through the web, There's data being picked up about you and your interests, and you might move away from a retail site, something like Amazon, where you've been looking at a particular product. You go onto a news site, and hey, what a coincidence. An advert pops up for a product you were looking at on Amazon. And that's evidence that you're being tracked. And people don't like that. Sometimes it's useful, though some people do appreciate it, but many times people are reluctant to accept that. And these are the kind of issues that the Information Commissioner's Office is grappling with at the present time, and which those of us involved with data protection need to be aware of and keep abreast of.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Frank, and we can't wait for our customers to see your new report.
Thank you very much. It's been great working with you.
Thank you.
Bye.